was out in my weighted vest and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I could be like an influencer for the weighted vest. So I sent a video of myself to the company and the lady wrote back, you're wearing the vest upside down. And I posted that and that got more attention than anything I've
Yeah.
posted to date. Me in a vest upside down in the morning, no makeup, cracking up.
Welcome to Married to the Startup. I'm Alicia McKenzie, a wellness entrepreneur and digital creator. Alongside me is my amazing husband, George, the CEO who's always ready for a new challenge. We've been navigating marriage and running startups for over a decade, and we're here to share the real, unfiltered journey with you. Join us for insights and candid conversations about integrating love, family, and entrepreneurship. This is Married to the Startup, where every day is a new adventure.
Welcome to another episode of Married to the Startup. I am your host, Alicia McKenzie.
And I am George McKenzie.
And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Keesha Scott. She is coming to us virtually from Florida. And I was going to do a big intro, but I feel like I don't think I could do you justice. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself and all of the amazing things that you're doing. And I want to hear all about cake for dinner.
Sure. So I'm Keisha Scott. I guess most importantly, I'm a mother of three. I'm also the co-founder of a national behavioral health company called Guardian Recovery, where I oversee the adolescent program. Recently, I signed my first book contract. So that parenting book will come out in about 10 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Called Cake for Dinner. And I have a podcast by the same name. So that's kind of everything I'm doing.
Okay, and I thought that you would be the perfect candidate for Married for the Startup because you started Guardian Recovery with your husband.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
Okay.
he had this big idea of being a crisis interventionist. At the time, I was a pharmaceutical rep and he was in finance, but we are both sober. So we had some personal experience, in the recovery community. So he became an interventionist, and what he noticed was there were a lot of holes in the system. He would get somebody into treatment. They would do 30 days in treatment, which was kind of the big thing at that time. And then afterward, the family would call him and say, "What now?" And there really wasn't a what now at that time. So we came up with the idea to start an outpatient treatment facility so that when people got out of their 30 days, they had something to do next. And that's kind of how it started. He and I in this little office by ourselves, just trying to help people one at a time. And now that grew into a big company. I think we now have 800 full-time employees and 17 facilities nationwide. That started with, an idea really to help people.
I did not realize Guardian was that large.
It is. It's wild. And I didn't have, most of that is him, and he took on a partner early on. I did a lot of parenting in the early stages of the company. I really got more involved when we decided to open an adolescent program, based on our own experience at home. And that's really where my love is. I really thrive with a dysfunctional teen.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. I love the scaling story, like starting small and really the genesis was to help people, to solve a problem.
Uh-huh.
And in the beginning, that's more like therapy, and then transitioning that into, okay, this is an actual business.
Yeah.
How do we scale this out so we can bring this, into more communities to help more people? Interesting story, right? And then you guys did that all bootstrapped, or did you use private equity or outside funding?
The beginning was all bootstrapped. I mean, it was literally us to people with an idea. My first husband died of a drug overdose, so I was, very motivated to really excel in that space and, give my kids something to either inherit or to feel good about. My husband adopted my twins when they were 3. We adopted them later, but we started the relationship when they were really young. And he has his own journey. There's so much heart behind, the whole movement. And, I think a great founder story is really rooted in a really solid why. And we certainly have that.
So how many years sober are you?
I'll be 24 years sober on May 30th.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
One of my closest friends is Hillary Phelps, and I think she's 19 years sober, but a similar struggle with addiction and alcohol when she was younger. And I can hear her vividly in my head. Like, she used to wake up blackout drunk and she used to pass out and like all these different things. And I think there's such a stigma around sobriety and alcoholism, and she is gung-ho about changing that. So what is your life, I don't know, just ethos when it comes to alcoholism, and how are you approaching this with your children?
Well, it's interesting. So when I got sober at 27 years old, it was certainly not a popular thing. I can remember my mom gave me an article, I think, from the New York Times that was about Ben Affleck getting sober. And she thought, well, this would be something that I would be excited about, which I was, but there wasn't anybody really doing it at that time out loud. Now it's much trendier just from a physical, medical standpoint. But also, I think mental health in general has come a long way. As far as my kids go, my twins, because their dad died of a drug overdose, I was a single mom early on. So I didn't handle it looking back, I think, the way I would now. I was a little shy and timid about being honest with them. I think really I thought it would be scary to them. I mean, one of their parents died that way. I was now sober. So I sort of gave them age-appropriate information as we went along about their father. And then I didn't really come totally clean with them about my own journey until they were probably 15 or 16. Until, when they started dabbling and coming to me with stories, I realized that my best trick up my sleeve I wasn't even using, which was my own story. My 12-year-old, however, based on that, has really known everything right out of the gate. So I brought all of them to my 20-year medallion, and they sat in the front row and saw the whole thing. They all cried, so you can feel that in that moment, kids know a lot more than we think they know. And I think they knew without me telling them some of my struggle. So really, it's turned out to be a great benefit.
That's amazing. The relationship between you and your husband, sobriety and recovery, and it is not easy. How do you carry that weight in the relationship, and how are you able to separate those two aspects from everyday life when it's time to turn it off?
Yeah, I don't know that we do. I think we just live in the space that we live in. We're a couple that's rooted in sobriety. We're rooted in this business, so, it's been suggested before that you should have time where you're not talking about your kids or your business, or I don't know that we do a great job at that. We have coffee every morning where he reads to me out of, a spiritual book that he reads, or he's really into spiritual economics is a book that he loves. So we'll read a little bit, but then quickly we're on to what's going on with Guardian and what's going on with that. So I don't know that we do a great job separating it, but we love each other and we love what we're doing so much that I'm not sure it matters.
Yeah, that's what we talk about a lot. It's really hard to disassociate and just like your brain doesn't just have, cylinders of information. Like, oh, now we're talking about business. Yeah. Oh, now we're talking about kids. Oh, now we're talking about you and I.
Yeah.
And it's just you find the time where you talk about each one of those things, and a lot of times it's in the same conversation.
Totally. And it's kind of like he and I are all these things, right? Like my podcast was came about because I wrote a book, and my book came about because of my long journey and story and all the things that I've been through, that he's been beside me. So like nobody's happier about the success of my podcast than him. You know what I mean? So so that over our morning coffee is just makes the conversation richer.
Yeah. And then it's interesting, like, co-founding, Guardian Recovery, and then scaling that business as a couple, and kind of being married to the startup, and then having your own addiction journeys, and knowing the stress that's involved in a startup, and having small children and doing all those things and not having outside funding. So it's like a financial stress. Like, how did you guys handle that early on? And then obviously, tips and tricks for the rest of us and how we grow the business of how you do that.
Yeah, the like money piece of it is definitely more his lane. In the beginning, we took no outside funding and we were flat broke. That's how we did it. You know, I mean, we were broke and we didn't take any money from the business. There really wasn't any. And we were raising little kids. So to your point, it was all the things you can imagine. It was stressful and difficult. I can remember during COVID, we were on a long walk because that's like all you could do. And we really thought that it was possible that the whole business go under, because at that time, our flagship company was a residential treatment center where everybody's in one space. So if somebody got COVID, and we didn't really know the magnitude of COVID at that time, we were like on this walk. I remember we were renting still. We hadn't bought our first home. And we were thinking like, this ship might totally sink. But those are the moments that we've been the closest. You know, it was like he and I against the world. And either this shit was going to sink or it wasn't, but we were still going to be, you know? So, you know, I don't know. I think it kind of just all goes together. And when, you know, one day if we sell Guardian or whatever happens, that will be the same feeling. It's like he and I, you know, together in this thing, which is, there's nothing better.
Wow. Do you guys have hopes for an acquisition, or is this just kind of what you want to do right now?
We'll see. I mean, you know, not too sure now exactly, you know, where, you know, what Guardian's future looks like. Right now, we're just working on the, you know, the facilities that we do have, you know, create. Our whole thing is we always want to provide treatment that we would give to a family member. That's been, you know, the premise from day one. Would we send our family member to this facility? So that's what we're really just trying to maintain that. Because as you grow, it's harder to, you know, maintain this mom and pop feel, you know, as you scale. So that's really been, I mean, we're so lucky. We have such amazing employees. And again, I think a lot of that is rooted in recovery. The majority of the people are sober. So many of the people are a product of our actual treatment center. So you graduate there and then you get to give back. You wake up every day different. You know, it's a little bit of it's a very deep why, you know, so people work hard with purpose.
Wellness is a big part of recovery. What does your daily wellness practice include? Especially considering you're doing all of the things. You have children, you have a business, you have a podcast, you're writing a book. Like it's not easy. How do you stay grounded and just feeling like you have enough to give back into all of these different aspects?
Yeah, I think sometimes you don't, right? Like some days are great. Like this morning, I took a really long walk in my weighted vest and I had time to get a good shower and I feel great and I'm excited to be on this podcast. You know, some days I don't do that and I yell at my kids and it's a big shit show, you know? So it really depends. My goals are to, you know, try to put fitness somewhere at the top of the list. I would like to say we eat relatively healthy, but, you know, addiction really is about a desire to escape, you know? So on bad days or when things are tough or financially tough or stressful, as you're alluding to, I probably overeat a shitload of sugar, which isn't great, you know? But like everybody, I'm just trying to stay in the game, you know? So I think that I actually just interviewed a woman recently that wrote a book called Balance is Bullshit. And I believe that.
Yep.
I wrote a book called Balance is Bullshit as well in 2020.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mine was a guided journal. So it was more focusing on daily practices and integrating healthier habits into your lifestyle. Yeah, that was my first book in 2020.
Yeah. And what a title, because it's so true, you know? And I think
It's
the
so
more
true.
you accept that, the easier it is to live in your day.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So your brand promises identity, humor, and sanity. Let's talk a little bit about that. And did you have an experience where you felt like you weren't able to meet all of those or that you lost them? Like what's the story behind that?
I think just my whole life, there was a bit of me not feeling like I fit in any particular space and a lot of me trying to sort of mute myself and my personality. I can be very outspoken. I love to curse. just a little bit out of the box. And I grew up in a family where, my dad's a doctor in exercise science. All of my brothers are educated and everybody's kind of like measured. And I just never really fit that mold. And so I think I spent many years trying to. I was a pharmaceutical rep. I tried to like do all those things and it never quite worked. And the older I get, the more I've realized that all of that hiding and making myself small was a terrible strategy, because me just being me has really helped me make the most connections with women. And I feel like people are really craving that. So this has really just been an exercise and me just getting down to, the nitty gritty of who I really am, how I really live, and helping other people, maybe giving other people the permission to let their hair down a little bit too.
Yeah. So was there like an aha moment for you when you said, okay, I'm done pretending I'm, trying to be what my parents wanted me to be or be what society says I should be. I'm just going to be me.
Yeah, I mean, let's get it real clear. I was never good at the pretending anyway, so I don't think it worked great. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody would hear me and be like, oh my God, she used to be so buttoned up. I don't think I was ever great at it. But I think there's been a few aha moments over time. I think my first real experience with it was being in Alcoholics Anonymous, in a space where you really tell the truth and you lead with your vulnerabilities, and having so many people be attracted to that, I remember one time early on in recovery, I was at Target and I saw a woman from my meeting, and she said, oh my God, like, every time you share, I feel so seen. And I was like, oh, okay. Finally I found a place that wants to hear my nonsense. And she was like, when you talk about what a mess you are and how messy your car is. And I was horrified, because I was like, that's not the wisdom I was like hoping to impart on the group, But for her, that made her feel more normal. And I just started to realize, oh, I could just be me. Like, I was exhausted at trying to fit any particular mold, and I can just be me the way I am naturally. And that is a thing. So I think it's been a slow journey towards that.
How's the cursing? Because I grew up with a military mom and father, and I've got a potty mouth.
Yeah, we curse a lot here too.
Yeah.
Cursing is, I don't think you shouldn't be overdone, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. But it gets you in trouble on screen.
Sometimes.
I've had just a few times where people have asked me, even in AA meeting once, an older woman asked me, not to curse. Certainly I'm not wildly like, if somebody doesn't want me to, then I'll do my best. I feel like for me, it's like an explanation point. It just sort of reiterates exactly how I feel. And sometimes for me, it's just necessary. I do also curse around my kids. And at the end of the day, it's just language and it's a word. I think it's more important that they know, when to and when not to. And it's another parenting thing. I'd never cursed around my daughter. At least I tried not to, because I could see very early she wasn't going to know the difference. But my 12-year-old, I could curse around him all the time. He very much knows the difference. So, I love a good curse word.
We call them words of emphasis or adult words.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
it's
baby
it's like
roll.
a word for an exclamation point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The baby actually dropped, I think, what did she say? Shit the other day.
Yes.
And I was like, sweetie, that's an adult word. She's like, oh, can I say shoot? I'm like, there you go. You got it.
But it's like, and you're giving her the appropriate information, but you're also thinking at least she used it at the right time. She dropped something and she said shit. Like, that's a smart child. Like,
yeah,
I agree. Right. Correct application of the word.
totally.
Let's move on. Cake for dinner. This is where I first saw you, actually, was Cake for Dinner. And I was like, ooh, okay, I love the title. Explain a little bit about the name, how it came about, when you started it, and why is it so special to you?
Yeah, so the name is like pretty simple. My husband actually helped me land on it, but it comes from, it's sort of double-sided. So part of it is just the idea that when I started this parenting thing, I was a single mom. And sometimes you just have cake for dinner. You have to be able to pivot as a mom, as a parent, but really as a single mom. And then the other side of it is that I happen to have an amazing dad. And when my first husband died, I lived with my parents for a period of time. And I even lived with them when I was pregnant. And my dad, during very dark times, has always baked me cakes. So during my pregnancy, he made his famous German chocolate cake at least weekly. And for me, it is sort of a nod to him. I preach a lot about the value of men and fatherhood, especially for young women. And I believe he single-handedly shaped me as a person. So it's also a nod to him.
Very nice. Very nice. The permission to be imperfect. When did you first have to give yourself that permission?
I mean, I think I gave myself that permission very young, but in a very wild, defiant way. Like my mom is very buttoned up and, we always had I came from no money, but we always had a homemade birthday cake and everything was in order. She was the president of the PTA, all of those things. And I think early on, although I didn't say this to myself, I think that I felt a little inadequate in her shadow. And my older brother was very similar to her. And I think I thought, fuck it, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'll just give myself the permission to be wild and, sort of out of the box. And so I think very young, I did that. And even during, your husband probably doesn't want to hear this, but even during my PMS stage of life, I remember I would always tell my friends, just tell yourself that, fuck it, you're giving yourself the permission to have the week off. Like I've been giving myself a permission to fail almost in that space for a really, really long time. I don't think it developed into what it is now until I, became a woman and I understood the pressures of being a mom and all the hats that we wear.
That's really refreshing, especially in today's age of social media where everybody is faking it online and you see all this perfection and everything is aesthetically pleasing and these over-the-top birthday parties and just all of the shit that we try to compare ourselves to unnecessarily.
Yeah, that really is where the podcast came from. So I wrote this book. I was trying to pitch it for a while. And the feedback I kept getting was like, you have no platform. Because I had, I don't know, maybe a few hundred followers. Maybe I had posted the Thanksgiving before. I'm 51. I'm not sitting around taking pictures of myself, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to do this social media thing? And I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it authentically. So I came up with the idea, I'll interview moms and I'll just, we'll just talk about what it's really like to be a mom, like the real shit, the real part, And if I can put that on social media, I will feel okay. And then maybe somehow somebody will enjoy it. So that really was the premise of the podcast, was like being real moms telling real stories.
And it's brilliant because I think women are starved for that.
Yeah, apparently so. Who knew? I was just throwing wild shit on the internet and like getting message after message after message. I didn't even realize how starved people were. And in fact, when I originally started this whole social media thing, I was like curating these videos and I did one of me picking lemons in my backyard. Now, let me tell you, this thing took me 2 hours, okay? And I put it on and it was a total failure, like maybe 2 people. And then like a week later, I was out in my weighted vest and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I could be like an influencer for the weighted vest. So I sent a video of myself to the company and the lady wrote back, you're wearing the vest upside down. And so I posted that and that got more attention than anything I've posted to date. Me in a vest upside down in the morning, no makeup, cracking up. So I've never picked a lemon since, but my friend was like, I don't know why this is so confusing to you. No one's watching you to see you pick a lemon. And I was like, oh, okay. I had no idea.
Yeah. That's like the play on words there that, women are starved for this story. So you give them cake for dinner.
Yeah.
Yes. But exactly. Yeah. So have you seen, I mean, I'm going back to the social media thing because I'm like mostly anti-social media. So in your practice, especially with adolescents, have you seen the negative impacts of social media, like really,
Totally.
I guess increasing throughout your practice?
Totally. I always tell parents, it is what's happening. So like taking it away totally may or may not be your thing, but at certain age they're going to be exposed to it. So like I like to try and help them learn how to navigate it, have boundaries, have time limitations. Also start practicing what it feels like to have 10 people. I tell all my teenagers, a guy wrote on my social media, "You have a big forehead." And I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even know I had a big forehead, first of all. And second of all, I had never like experienced that feeling. So I processed that with them. Imagine I'm 51 and could really give a shit. Imagine being a 16-year-old girl that has a poor body image, low self-esteem. I mean, it is devastating. So we have to be in it with them. We have to practice with them. We have to help them understand how to process that stuff. And to your point, it is detrimental, but it also is happening. So I think that's kind of where parenting is hard, and we have to, be realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying there, and the fact that learning the skills up front. So it's kind of like alcohol or
Totally.
cursing or any of that you can't just be an ostrich and bury your head in the sand. You're going to have to figure out a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
On social media, you can choose to not be a part of it. That's a choice. Or you could choose to be a part of it, but how do I set boundaries? How do I protect myself? How do I reinforce who I am, to your point, like, and be who I am, be my authentic self, regardless of what someone around the world is going to post about my forehead.
Yes. And, and also a lot of being a teenager is not getting caught with your pants down, being a little prepared. Mm-hmm. Like I role play with my teenagers all the time, the girls that I work with and the kids in my house. Like, somebody's going to pass you a joint. Well, I don't know if they're smoking joints now, but whatever they smoke, somebody's going to pass something to you. Somebody's going to offer you a vape in the bathroom. It's going to happen. You're in middle school. What are you going to say? How are you going to say it? We practice because sometimes you just need to know what to say. And if you don't practice that stuff, it can catch you off guard. And depending upon your personality, if you're a follower or a leader, that may or may not go well.
Yeah. We just experienced something similar with a not funny joke that our son came home with. So, I mean,
Yeah, it's just
it's hard.
Mean, they're young, right? And they're learning, and
and they learn a lot
they have to be taught. Yeah,
and they learn a lot at the lunch table, and
yes,
a lot happens. Middle school is a disaster for everybody, and there's a lot going on. And I believe the best you can do is make sure that you are maintaining open communication. And sometimes you have to like I communicate well with teenagers, but you have to turn to their channel. You can't go in, and because it's funny because parents go in with this like authoritative voice. Meanwhile, what were we doing at that age? I mean, I don't know about you, but like I was doing way worse shit than my kids are doing. But yet, but when I talk to them, I'm like, oh my gosh, why would you say that? That's a terrible joke. But it's like, oh, okay, I can step back, remember who I was at that age. They're telling the joke because they're trying to fit in. They're trying to be funny. They're also in the middle school age, they're trying shit on, like, oh, am I the jokester? Am I this? So we have to, it's difficult, but we have to sit back, let them do that. And then you're almost just, yelling stuff from the sideline.
Yeah, we have a 14-year-old girl, and I've seen both aspects of the social media and the parenting, right? I've seen one where she has access to everything, TikTok, Instagram, no real guardrails. And then I have one where she has access to nothing, no Instagram, no phone, no TikTok. And the one that has access to nothing is kind of rebelling in her own special little way.
Yes.
So I think there has to be a middle ground. We all agreed that none of them would get phones until 8th grade, and we all pretty much stuck to that.
Yep.
So I think within your parenting circle and within the friend circle, you all need to make sure you're on the same page.
I mean, if you get that, you're golden, I made it to 7th grade, but I think having a group of parents because especially 8th grade, then 9th grade, oh, they're going to start going to parties or whatever. And you can function as a group, which is so much easier.
Yeah, and we had the added benefit of having our 19-year-old where we did everything wrong. I'm so sorry, Ava, if you're listening to this, because she had a phone at 10 and we were like, oh God,
and then by like 10 and 3 months, we realized immediately that was a bad decision. Like,
but so much of that is the way it goes. I write in my book about, I grew up with no money and so did my husband. So when my twins turned 16, we took them to get new cars, and I can't, to this day, it's one of the most exciting things I've ever done. I didn't get a car until I was an adult and became a pharmaceutical rep. I never had anything. I bought my own basketball shoes. But when we pulled out of that parking lot with 2 Audis, I looked at him. I said, this is a terrible idea. He said, it is. We knew right away. It was like, oh shit, can we take them back?
You can, minus 20% of the value.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What didn't we talk about that you wanna kind of chat a little bit about? Your upcoming book, or
yeah, I mean,
how's that going for you?
My book is going great. So we just landed on the book cover. It's now in the editing process with my publisher. And, every author I've spoken to said this is where it gets hard in the editing process. So I'm a little nervous about that. But, I'm just excited that all the stuff that I've been through, death, divorce, being a single mom, going through my daughter's OCD, all this tough stuff, finally I can put it in one spot where it makes my life make a little sense and hopefully help somebody else. So I'm just really excited for my life at 51 to finally make a little bit of sense.
Is it a memoir?
So it is a parenting guide / memoir. I was told that the memoir, for somebody who's unknown, doesn't do as well. I don't like calling it a parenting guide because it's more of like kind of what you said with your 19-year-old. It's more of like maybe not what to do. It's more lessons from the trenches, I mean, nobody's going to read it and send their kid to Harvard. Like, it's not that book.
Right. Well, that's good. And I'm interested. So as your podcast is getting going and you've interviewed all these real mothers and their true stories, anything reshaped your view of things, or you've heard something that you're like, wow, that's so different than, what I would have thought?
Yeah, 2 things. One, I've interviewed a few, I've interviewed Hilaria Baldwin. I flew to New York to interview her. I've interviewed a few housewives, a few really big founders, like the founder of Tower 28 and Dry Bar. And, you sit in the room with these dynamic women that have done so much. And at the end of the day, what really connects us is being mothers, which you would assume. But the feeling is so wild. I mean, Hilaria Baldwin and I were on a couch both crying, about it's a story about my son. So it's interesting. But I would say the thing that has touched me the most is I interviewed a woman named Mara Bernstein. She is a divorce attorney, and I assumed we would naturally talk about divorce. But she went into her story of her husband passing and her daughter passing when she was a baby. Oh. And the resilience that she exuded, but also the ability to still find joy in her life and move forward and parent her other 2 children and to be a happy woman sitting on my couch. I mean, it's wild how much women can do, how much we carry, how much we overcome. And I think I knew that intellectually, but to talk about it, see it, and feel it has been one of the true joys of my life, honestly. And I'm getting ready to launch the dad edition, so that will be interesting.
Oh, the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, we want to hear what the dads say, and I work with teenage girls, so I know the value of fatherhood and the importance of it. And I know what happens when it's not available. So I would like to take a peek behind that curtain, and my first interview will be my dad.
Oh, well, that's a must listen.
Yeah.
Where are you in the birth order?
I'm second. I have 3 brothers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm very much a second kid. The first kid is organized and has it together, and the second one comes out wild. I mean, it's very stereotypical.
Definitely. Okay, can we do a little bit of rapid fire?
Totally.
One of my favorite questions. What was the last major purchase that you made?
Major purchase. I'm like super weird with money, and anything that's expensive, I like just tell my husband I want it and then let him buy it.
I do that. That's my strategy
I
too.
feel so weird about buying things for myself, so I just kind of like plant
Agreed.
the seed. So probably my podcast studio is the most expensive thing I have willingly purchased for myself.
Amazing. Savory or sweet?
Oh, sweet, all day.
What is one piece of advice that it is given to everyone, but you think it's completely terrible?
I don't know, maybe stay in your lane.
Is it?
I'm fucking always out of the lane, and at the older I get, the more great I feel about it.
I think
Yeah.
that's the nature of business.
Yeah, and I think no one's been successful or unique by staying in their lane.
Never.
Like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah, I don't think a real entrepreneur stays in their lane.
No, you can't, or you'd just be a worker.
Yeah.
What's your favorite mocktail?
I'm not really that exciting. I really am into just drinking water with whatever IV stuff I put in it. I drink tons of that every day. So,
Can I tell you mine?
yes, please.
And I only say this because I drink it almost every night. It is an elderflower fever tree tonic with a little bit of bitters.
Wow. I might try that. I'm getting ready to have a party. I'm having this Mother's Day event, and we're having cocktails and mocktails. So maybe I should serve that.
It is so good. It's just like a little hint of elderflower. And then you serve it with rabbit ice, the ice you get from Chick-fil-A.
Oh, wow.
It's
Yeah. And then what's the other thing?
Apolos.
Apolos.
It's a new, this brand sent me, it's like a calming adaptogen drink.
Okay.
They sent it to me and as hey, try this, but he loves it.
yeah.
He has it almost every night.
You have it at night with tonic water. It's great.
Is it served cold?
Yeah, you put it on ice. You put like an ounce of it in there, and then you just put some tonic water, and it's flavorful, but kind of get you ready for sleep. It's great.
That is one thing I would like to get into is the mocktail world and like start trying. I had a company called Curious Elixir send me all free stuff for my event. And their stuff is amazing. Like, I would like to explore that just because so many more people are getting sober and you still want to enjoy yourself and like have the like process of making a drink and enjoying a mocktail is exciting.
Yeah, and I just like something at the end of the night, but I hate drinking during the week because I don't want to feel like asshole in the next morning.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of that the end of the day, the closure of the routine.
Yes,
and I think that's
totally.
why a lot of people do the drinking is you have that routine.
Yes.
Oh, at the end of the night, I get a cocktail before I go to bed.
Yeah.
So you get to fulfill that routine with something that is healthier.
Yeah.
And it actually prepares your body for sleep versus the other,
Right.
which does not.
Yes, for sure.
If you could give one piece of advice to a couple that is running a business together, what would it be?
Remember your why, because life and business go through ups and downs. Things ebb and they flow financially and otherwise. If you're always rooted in your why, the difficult times are bearable.
And last but not least, Keisha Scott, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram, Keisha W. Scott. I'm also Cake for Dinner Pod. My website is KeishaScott.com. And that's pretty much, if you find that, you'll find me.
And Google the lemon picking video. I think everyone should view that.
total-
We're gonna make that the top performer.
A total bust.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning in to Married to the Startup. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please take a moment to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us reach more people and keeps the conversation going. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, drop me a message. I love hearing from you guys. Until next time.